Yet again, it goes without saying, but Demon Slayer knocked it out of the park with the second episode of the Entertainment District arc. From the jump, this episode came out swinging with the theatrics and went well above and beyond what we had received from the manga in terms of Uzui's declaration to be the god of festivals. What was originally a block of text with a cool pose was then made to be a series of funny and dynamic shots that exemplified the creative freedoms that have been afforded to these animators. And at that, I feel as though it was able to give the joke even more weight, as the pacing of it was divided up with accompanying visuals to boot. Not to mention this anime iteration of an already gorgeous color spread from the manga. However, on the point of pace, the contents of this episode and the beginning of this arc in general are especially comedic. These jokes were rapid fire and at times felt to be a little less weighty here simply because they were delivered so quickly, but even despite this, I don't believe it to be much of a loss at all on account of course, what I feel truly makes this such an incredible product: the supplementary content. This is what especially sets Demon Slayer apart as an anime, and the reason it comes across as the truest form of the content, superseding even its already phenomenal source material in terms of richness. Studio Ufotable is willing to expand on any and everything. This is a studio that knows and adores its series so much that it is willing and capable of providing us all with more without stepping on the toes of its source manga, which far too many series end up screwing up in some way or another. The sequence of events from the exploration of the Entertainment District to the intent of their mission was switched around. In the manga, we had their objective be highlighted first and foremost, with the Wisteria Crust safe house being presented as more of an isolated location separate from the district. However, it would seem that for the sake of avoiding confusion, the anime decided to relocate. Now, I will admit, from the perspective of a logistic stickler, having these characters enter the district in their Demon Slayer attire and even enter a location specifically designated for Demon Slayer core members within this place where they may be dealing with a demon of high esteem doesn't make much sense at all. I mean, it pretty much defeats the purpose of secrecy in a lot of ways, but I can understand the theatric allure to this approach. I do think they could have maintained this decision while also retaining a bit more logic by just having the mission declaration be a flashback of sorts, but perhaps that would be a bit more reaching than they are willing to do. Regardless, what's more fascinating to me than this shift of order was the approach to focus. In the manga, we got blocks of text that explained the ins and outs of this new location, whereas the anime, however, had our three heroes explore the location on their own, relaying said information by way of their own experiences and curiosity, what allows for such wonderful character moments that we otherwise would not have. We additionally had even more interactions with Uzui as our leader here, which I especially enjoyed. The difference in dynamic here with him leading the charge as opposed to the late great Kyojuro is made especially clear and very quickly. These simple moments and the fact that with this new order we have them right after Uzui's declaration of being the god of festivals that they had better follow to the letter create such a juxtaposition to his intent that I really love, and subsequently supercharges that difference. I mean, consider how quickly Rengoku had them all praising him like a higher being naturally. And here we have Tengen struggling to simply get them to stay on board a carriage ride. It is so great. Tengen and Rengoku are both weirdos in their own very unique ways, and regardless of everything, at the very least when it comes to action, even minor glimpses, they are incredible and worth marveling. Now, in the manga, the Wisteria safe house was somewhat re-explained briefly as a place where the Demon Slayers could rest and such, but I suppose the anime didn't see the necessity of saying this again, and instead just brought focus to the logo with the expectation that audience members would connect the dots. And hey, even if they don't, by placing this location in the Entertainment District, it comes across as perhaps just a regular old inn, which doesn't make much of a difference in terms of our understanding of what is going on. However, the only thing is that the manga made Uzui out to be more bossy to the owner of this establishment. Meanwhile, from what little we got with the anime, he seemed to, for the most part, be pretty respectful, but this was minor enough in the manga to be forgotten, so it wouldn't make for such a big difference in the anime or anything. Now, the selling of Tanjiro, or rather Sumiko, was for me way funnier in the anime at least, as the husband's reaction really killed me. Also, Uzui is just drop dead gorgeous. Good lord, this man is beautiful. Moving on, the display of the Orion was so well done, from the emphasis of her stilts to the awe of our onlookers. Her grace and beauty was far more captivating and overall a whole lot flashier than its manga counterpart. The recruitment of Inosuke, I feel, was also rather well done, and I am a big Inosuke fan, so this was a scene I was already very fond of, made that much better, so I am quite happy. And you know what, for someone who didn't really like Zenitsu when he first appeared and was pretty annoyed by him in truth beyond the coolness factor of his fights, this arc is where I feel he really began to take a turn for the better, in my mind at least. I mean, truly, I still find his infatuation with a puppy-minded Nezuko unnerving, but his place as the level-headed, mostly sane, and far more informed member of the squad has been solidified, and his scenes are actually really funny. And listen, we have seen this girl-crazed archetype done to death at this point. It is decades old, but thankfully, instead of being straight up perverse or objectifying or anything bothersome like that, Zenitsu is just a luckless simp, and it is hilarious. When he was just rocking out, that one lady's declaration that Zenko would be big one day was easily one of my favorite jokes of the entire arc. But going back to Sumiko's experience, I am so glad that they decided to use the scene of the house manager discovering his scar. This actually wasn't in a chapter and was instead a bit of bonus volume content, but clearly it was too great not to be included, and my hope was that it would be, and thankfully it was. Now, his brief meeting with the Orion and her helpers was done super well, but what an interesting approach to the Tanjiro can't lie thing. For once, I wasn't really a fan of a visual overhaul. I kind of like the simplicity of this moment, and I feel like the visual shift and filter distracted from what was to me already an incredibly great conveyance. Now, if you're unfamiliar, this joke is definitely one taken out of One Piece's playbook, as Luffy is the very same when it comes to lying, and that is always hilarious. I wouldn't say it was a horrible addition, as really it's marvelous as the studio is willing to do as much as they do for this franchise, but I do think it is a little too distracting, and there wasn't much of a need to dial things up here at least. Now, Inosuke's investigation scene was recomposed to an extent as well. Here, as opposed to the tail end, his frustration with his current attire is brought up first and foremost as he walks the halls. Furthermore, he's told to slow down with an inability to verbally respond, which leads to our explanation of his silence, which makes a lot more thematic sense in the manga version, where he just thinks about all of this in the same breath as his dissatisfaction with wearing a kimono without ever needing to speak in the first place, as the women don't speak to him there at all. From there, we have the ominous presence of our demon, who has indeed captured one of Uzui's wives, Makio. What was yet another shifted sequence of events, which instead had the bindings presented first, this time with a strange repetition of words that I really liked, followed by the inquisitive mouth appearance, which was actually wrapped up in the same way with our shot of Makio. The afterward approach of Inosuke was more or less absent in the manga, but made for a great building of suspense and anticipation for more to come. This episode in its totality adapted 2 chapters of the Demon Slayer manga, chapters 71 and 72. As a complete package, plenty was shifted around with this one, however, all of which were to me worthwhile movements that enhanced the presentation with virtually no disruption. We received the outro for this arc, and man, is it so beautiful! Like, I actually lost my breath at the sight of Master Ubuyashiki. I love this arc from the bottom of my heart, and it is already going above and beyond. And if you would like to go above and beyond, be sure to subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on, because when it comes to bringing you some of the best Demon Slayer content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.